Is your attention fragmented? Do you struggle to concentrate on things and find yourself routinely zoning out during conversations? Are you always multitasking? Do you feel permanently busy but never seem to really get anything done? If so, then it's time to admit that your brain is rotten, and so is mine. Let's imagine that you're using your phone or your laptop to work on something really important, and all of a sudden it starts switching between applications at random every 2 minutes, and there doesn't seem to be anything that you can do to fix it. It looks like your operating system has become corrupted. How long would you tolerate this for before you just gave up and took it for repair, or simply cut your losses and shelled out on a new device? Not that long, I'll bet. And yet this is exactly what your brain is doing all the time, chopping and changing between tasks every couple of minutes, constantly derailed and distracted by a steady stream of status updates, notifications, texts and calls, perpetually busy doing stuff, but never really making significant progress on anything. You've become gradually dependent on constant digital stimulation at all times of the day, scrolling through news feeds while you brush your teeth, browsing multiple internet tabs while watching TV, always connected but never fully engaged on any one thing. How did we arrive at this lifestyle that has made us slaves to the small screen? The answer lies in the ways that our brains are wired.
It's science time.
The prefrontal cortex is the area of the brain that handles complex cognitive tasks, including decision-making, impulse control, long-term planning, delayed gratification, and maintaining socially acceptable behaviour. Basically, it's the part of the brain that is most obviously impaired when you get drunk. It's also the section of the brain that plays a key role in creative activities, including art and music, and, as such, the neural networks of the prefrontal cortex are responsible for the attentional control necessary to accomplish these endeavours. The neurons in the prefrontal cortex are sensitive to dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. When you're working on an important project or nearing a goal, you receive a hit of dopamine which acts as a motivator and anticipates the reward of finishing the task. Now, unfortunately, your brain doesn't discern between the quality or size of tasks. So every time you text, tweet, email or receive a notification, you get a neurological reward. Add to this the fact that the prefrontal cortex has a novelty-seeking bias, which just means that it's easily hijacked by shiny things, and it's soon obvious as to why digital multitasking is so appealing. We get sucked into a dopamine feedback loop where we're constantly rewarded for performing hundreds of largely pointless tasks. The irony is that the very part of the brain that we need to depend on to focus and stay on task is easily distracted and can't compete with the lure of technology. In a recent talk at Stanford's business school, the ex-vice president of user growth at Facebook stated that the short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. It is eroding the core foundations of how people behave. If that wasn't enough, former Facebook president Sean Parker has recently come out and revealed that the thought process behind building the social media giant was, simply put, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? He goes on to say, we needed to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. It's a social validation feedback loop. You're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. The inventors understood this consciously, and we did it anyway. It turns out that constantly changing between tasks is neurologically expensive, burning up oxygen and glucose, increasing the production of stress hormones including cortisol and adrenaline, and reinforcing that dopamine feedback loop in the prefrontal cortex. But isn't multitasking the best, and in fact only way, to get lots of things done with maximum efficiency in a short space of time? It certainly appears that way. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin, author of the wonderfully geeky book The Organized Mind, if you recognise his name, it's because he also wrote the best-selling book This Is Your Brain on Music. Daniel Levitin sums up the perils of multitasking in this way. Multitasking is the enemy of the focused attentional system. Multitasking creates the illusion that you're getting more stuff done, when actually all that you're doing is trashing your brain. Performing numerous low-level tasks burns through your attentional energy, which means that your impulse control is diminished and you end up making poor decisions. If you're involved in any sort of creative pursuit, then allowing yourself to be constantly distracted by non-urgent technological interruptions robs you of the focused attentional energy necessary to achieve significant progress in your chosen field. Here's the thing that only a few people acknowledge. Money is not the only currency that you deal in. Things like attention, energy, sleep, and time are all different forms of alternative currency that we can spend judiciously, invest, or squander depending on our choices. Of all of these, I consider time the most valuable because it's almost impossible to manufacture more of it. In effect, this is actually one of the primary functions of money. We trade it for goods or services that promise to give us more time and pursue the things that make us happy. So why on earth would anyone want to waste their precious time and valuable attentional energy mindlessly scrolling through endless feeds? The answer is that our ancient brains are simply not adequately equipped to resist the relentless novelty and social validation offered by living our lives digitally. Here are the steps that I'm taking to try and rewire my distracted mind. Top of the list is training yourself to focus through the practice of meditation. If that term scares you, then you can also use the nebulous nothing word mindfulness. Don't panic. If you start meditating, it doesn't mean that you have to join a cult, start wearing beads, or become one of those awful white women that goes to one yoga class and then begins to sign off all of their emails with namaste. There are apps like Headspace which offer a totally secular route into improving your ability to quieten your mind and develop your attentional capacity. I stumbled into the practice of insight meditation, also known as Vipassana meditation, about a decade ago, and I found it to have numerous benefits, including improved concentration, better sleep, greater sensory and kinesthetic awareness. I actually really found that it improved my hearing, a more consistent emotional state. It's a useful tool for managing depression, and in general, the practice of daily meditation results in a massive reduction in my tendency to be a whiny little bitch. This is not to say that meditating for 20 minutes a day allows me to sort of cruise through life in a blissful, zen-like state. I've simply noticed a correlation between regular meditation and being less of an unbearable arsehole. Numerous high-functioning individuals swear by a daily meditative practice of some form or other. Best-selling author and self-proclaimed human guinea pig Tim Ferriss has interviewed roughly 300 top performers across a range of disciplines, ranging from finance to mixed martial arts, on his podcast, and he estimates that around 80% of them engage in some sort of regular mindful practice. This includes people like Rick Rubin, who's basically produced all of your favourite records, regardless of the genre, and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Chill out, dickwad.
The best way to stop yourself wasting valuable time and energy scrolling through streams of other people's relentless narcissism is to delete the damn apps from your phone. If you're unwilling to do this, then the next best thing is to simply reconfigure your smartphone or tablet to minimize distractions. By putting all of the pointless social apps in one folder and hiding it away, you're adding 2 or 3 clicks to the process of checking them, which means that you'll go there less often. Another small tweak that has a huge impact is turning off almost all notifications. Stop your email from checking itself every 5 minutes, and stop your device from alerting you every time someone likes that picture of whatever you had for lunch. If you enforce a morning and evening buffer zone in which you stay away from screens for the first and last hour of the day, this delays cognitive burnout by making sure that all your attentional credits aren't frittered away by scrolling through your newsfeed as soon as you open your eyes, and also improves the quality of your sleep at the end of the day by allowing your brain the chance to wind down naturally without the stimulation of technology. Related to this is not sleeping with your phone next to your face, or at the very least, keeping it on flight mode overnight so your sleep isn't interrupted by notifications. Better yet, keep it out of the bedroom entirely. But I need it for my alarm, I hear you say.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Buy an alarm clock. People seem to have got the hang of not putting garbage into their bodies if they want to be physically healthy, but they haven't, or refuse to make the connection between what they put in their eyes and the quality of their mental abilities. If you find it hard to switch off at night, then read a book, preferably fiction. I find that this puts me to sleep in about 5 pages. If you're not into books, then give them another try. They're like really long Wikipedia articles, but properly researched. Most people use Facebook and other social platforms primarily as a source of information input, an endless treadmill of unfiltered brain vomit. How about changing tack and using socials solely as an output? If your business or creative endeavours demand that you have to interact using social media, then there are steps that you can take to ensure that the technology is working for you and not the other way around. You can use post-scheduling software like Hootsuite or If This Then That to batch your updates for specific times. What this allows you to do is get all of your weekly or monthly updates out of the way in one solid block, rather than multiple fragments of several minutes at a time. Obviously, this prohibits the spontaneity that social media is supposedly predicated on, but it's amazing how many users give followers the illusion of a real-time feed through structured, well-timed updates. If you want to really increase your productivity and improve your mental health, then kill your news feed. This is what I see when I log into Facebook. Almost nothing. I can still keep track of notifications, manage my website's Facebook page, and pretend to remember people's birthdays without getting sucked into the whirlpool of useless status updates. The real benefit, aside from not expending time and energy processing superfluous data, is that I'm not constantly bombarded by the artificially manufactured awesomeness of the lives of others. Seeing the carefully edited highlights of those in your networks without having insight into their failures can create a distorted sense of reality in which everyone is doing better than you, which can fuel symptoms of anxiety and depression. Now, the obvious criticism of this approach to social media is that it's cynical, exploitative, manipulative, insincere, and means that you miss out on important events in your friends' lives. My argument is that digital friendship is by its very nature fundamentally insincere. You can still participate fully in the relationships that matter most to you by seeing your friends and family in real life. Rather than attempting to maintain superficial, surface level relationships with 1,000 people, it might be better to expend the same cumulative amount of time and energy on cultivating relationships on a more deep level with 20 to 50 people that you genuinely care the most about. Scientists have actually quantified the maximum number of social relationships that any one person can effectively maintain. It's known as Dunbar's number, and it's surprisingly small compared to the number of friends that you might have on Facebook. It's 150. The digital Sabbath is exactly as it sounds. You take one day a week where you abstain from all social media and email checking. The digital sabbatical is a slightly longer time frame, typically 3 days to a week, taken twice a year or more, which allows you to get off the grid and escape the tyranny of social media. Now, we can actually turn our brain's novelty and reward-seeking tendencies to our advantage, effectively playing the brain at its own game. One of the most effective things that I've found for this is an app called Forest, which rewards you for spending set amounts of time away from your phone. Now, planting a cartoon tree to reward focus seems like an absurdly childish tactic, but it's amazing just how effective it can be. If you use your phone during a given time period, then your tree gets killed, and it's insane how upsetting killing a digital sapling can become. And what looks like a silly little game has become the #1 driver of my ability to get important things like making preachy, pretentious videos for YouTube done on a regular basis. Now, I'm not suggesting, even for a split second, that I'm some sort of paradigm of efficiency who never zones out looking at his phone and is always focused and on task. I still catch myself being a screen zombie on a regular basis, and I hate it. I'm also aware of the irony of using the internet and social media to point out the damaging effects of technology. Some people will dismiss me as some sort of Luddite, fearful of change and advocating a return to typewriters and carrier pigeons, frantically hurling clogs at technology in a futile attempt to halt its advance. All I'm trying to do is point out that technology is a wonderful tool but a terrible master, and it's important to assess where on that continuum you are and if it's really having a positive impact on your life. So how about making 2018 the year that you finally get off the hamster wheel? Go outside, move, do something that you're really passionate about. Go and buy a coffee without posting a picture of it. Learn something new. Here endeth the sermon.